The peaceful species that wasn't. The observation vessel Eternal Curiosity maintained its position in the shadow of Earth's moon, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to human detection systems. Commander Xertal stood before the viewing portal, 6 elongated fingers pressed against the transparent material as he studied the blue-green world below. His large, reflective eyes, evolved for the dim light of his homeworld, blinked slowly in contemplation. Another day of observation complete, reported Science Officer Vela, her skin shifting from a professional blue to a more relaxed purple as she approached. The humans continue to fascinate. And concern, added Xertal, turning away from the viewport. The Galactic Confederation Council remains divided on whether to proceed with first contact. The Eternal Curiosity had been monitoring Earth for nearly 2 decades. The Confederation, an alliance of 17 sentient species spanning over 200 star systems, had strict protocols for initiating contact with emerging spacefaring civilizations. Humanity had been flagged as potentially concerning from the beginning. They're so contradictory, Vela said, her dorsal frills rippling in what Xertal recognized as confusion. They create such beautiful art, music that moves even non-human hearts, yet they've spent most of their history fighting each other. Xertal nodded, his neck membranes expanding slightly. The Council fears they might be another Krell situation. Neither needed to elaborate on the Krell, the only species ever denied membership in the Confederation due to their inherently aggressive nature. The Krell had been contained to their home system for the greater safety of the galaxy. But humans aren't Krell, Vela insisted. They're violent, yes, but they're also compassionate. They're capable of change. Which is why we're still here, watching, Xertal replied. A soft chime interrupted their conversation. Communications Officer Tazra approached, their crystalline exoskeleton glittering under the ship's ambient lighting. Commander, we've received new instructions from the Council, they announced. First contact has been authorized. Xertal's inner eyelids flickered in surprise. After all this time, what changed their minds? The humans' response to their climate crisis, Tazra explained. The Council believes it demonstrates sufficient capacity for unified action and long-term thinking. Or perhaps, Vela suggested, they're simply running out of time to decide. Humans will achieve independent interstellar travel within decades at their current rate of technological advancement. Xertal considered this. First contact was always preferable to having an unknown species suddenly appear in Confederation space. Prepare the diplomatic team, he ordered. We make contact in 3 cycles. Human reaction to the arrival of aliens was remarkably measured. There was initial panic, certainly, religious upheaval, stock market crashes, and conspiracy theories running wild. But there was also an undercurrent of excitement, of readiness, as if humanity had been waiting for this moment throughout their entire history. Admiral Helena Chen, appointed as Earth's primary diplomatic liaison to the Confederation, stood in the newly constructed diplomatic exchange facility in Geneva, watching the alien delegation approach. At 53, Chen had spent 30 years in the United Earth Navy before being selected for this position. The scars on her face and the calculated precision of her movements spoke of a life dedicated to service and survival. "They're so delicate," murmured Dr. Marcus Reynolds, the xenobiologist standing beside her. Nothing like what most people expected. It was true. The Confederation representatives, a mixture of species including the insectoid Tazra, the color-shifting Velans, and the willowy Xertals, seemed almost fragile to human eyes. Remember, Chen cautioned, appearances are deceiving. They crossed the stars to get here. There's nothing fragile about that achievement. The formal meeting was broadcast globally. Commander Xertal, appointed as head of the delegation, stepped forward. "We bring greetings from the Galactic Confederation," he said, his words translated through an advanced device. "We come with hopes of peace, knowledge exchange, and eventual membership for humanity among the stars." Admiral Chen stepped forward in return. "Earth welcomes you. We are honored by your presence and eager to learn from those who have traveled so far. Over the months that followed, humanity was gradually introduced to the wider galactic community. They learned of the Confederation's history, 20,000 years of largely peaceful cooperation, scientific advancement, and cultural exchange. They learned of its governing principles, non-aggression, mutual aid, and the preservation of sentient life throughout the galaxy. Humans were welcomed as observers in Confederation councils. Trade agreements were established. Cultural exchanges began. Earth's cities hummed with excitement as alien technology brought cleaner energy, more efficient recycling systems, and the promise of the stars. But there was tension beneath the surface. The Confederation representatives frequently expressed concern about Earth's military infrastructure. You maintain armed forces despite having unified your planet, Sirtal observed during a private meeting with Admiral Chen. The Confederation finds this unusual. Chen smiled diplomatically. Old habits die hard, Commander. We've had a violent history, as you know. But surely now, with the resources of the Confederation available to you, we're grateful for the Confederation's guidance. Chen interrupted smoothly. But humanity will determine its own path to the stars, including how we protect ourselves along the way. Sirtal's membranes fluttered in what Chen had learned indicated discomfort. Protect yourselves from what, Admiral? The Confederation has maintained peace for millennia. Chen's smile remained fixed, but her eyes hardened slightly. Then we have nothing to worry about, do we? 3 years after first contact, the Galactic Confederation formally invited Earth to apply for probationary membership. The process would take decades, but it was a significant milestone. A delegation of human representatives was invited to visit Harmonia Center, the Confederation's administrative hub. The delegation included Admiral Chen, Dr. Reynolds, and 30 other carefully selected individuals representing Earth's diverse cultures, disciplines, and perspectives. They traveled aboard the Confederation vessel Peaceful Discourse, marveling at faster-than-light travel and the wonders of alien technology. Harmonia Center orbited a binary star system at the galaxy's inner ring. The massive space station housed representatives from all 17 Confederation species, serving as both administrative headquarters and cultural showcase. It's breathtaking, Dr. Reynolds whispered as they docked. The station resembled a massive spiral, its transparent sections revealing gardens, lakes, and structures of impossible beauty. Indeed, Admiral Chen agreed, though her attention was focused elsewhere, on the notably minimal security protocols, the absence of defensive systems, and the overall vulnerability of what was essentially the Confederation's capital. The humans were welcomed with a ceremony of light and sound that brought tears to many eyes. They were assigned living quarters, given access to public areas, and invited to observe council meetings. It was during the third such meeting that everything changed. A Tazra representative was discussing resource allocation for a new research initiative when they were interrupted by an urgent communication. The council chamber's atmosphere shifted instantly from serene discussion to tense silence. Admiral Chen watched as Sirtal, now a senior council member, viewed information on a private screen. His skin paled to an ashen gray. "The swarm has returned," he announced, his translator unable to fully convey the dread in his voice. 3 outer systems have gone dark. The chamber erupted in panicked discussions. Chen caught Dr. Reynolds' eye across the room. The xenobiologist's expression mirrored her own concern. Later, in a private briefing, the human delegation learned the truth. The swarm was not one entity but billions, a hive-minded species that consumed everything in its path. They had appeared twice before in Confederation history, cutting swaths of destruction across multiple systems before mysteriously retreating. "What's your defense strategy?" Chen asked directly. The alien representatives exchanged uncomfortable glances. "We evacuate," Xertal finally explained. "We move populations from the swarm's path. We preserve life." "You run," Chen translated flatly. "Admiral." Sirtal's voice lowered. The swarm cannot be defeated. In 20,000 years, no one has found a way. They are too numerous, too adaptive. We save who we can. Chen stood abruptly. I need to contact Earth immediately. The Confederation Council was disturbed by humanity's response. Within days of learning about the swarm, Earth had mobilized. The United Earth Navy repurposed civilian ships, recalled reservists, and accelerated weapon development programs that had been officially discontinued but secretly maintained. This is highly concerning, Tirtal told Chen during an emergency meeting. Your species agreed to the Confederation's principle of non-aggression. Non-aggression doesn't mean non-defense, Chen countered. We've studied your historical records. The swarm has taken 12 systems over the past 20,000 years. They've never been stopped, just temporarily satisfied before moving on to the next feeding ground. It is tragic, yes, but it's unacceptable, Chen interrupted. Humanity won't simply wait to be devoured or displaced. We will fight. With what? Asked a Velen counselor, their skin flickering between anxiety yellow and disbelief green. Your technology is centuries behind the swarm's capabilities. Chen smiled thinly. We're quick learners. In the months that followed, human engineers and scientists worked alongside the few Confederation specialists willing to assist them. They adapted alien technology to military applications, something the Confederation had largely abandoned millennia ago. Tirtal observed this transformation with growing unease. Humans, who had been eager cultural students just weeks before, now focused almost exclusively on developing weapons, shields, and battle strategies. Their ships, once primarily exploration and transport vessels, bristled with hastily installed weapon systems. They're becoming what we feared, he confided to Vela, who had joined him on Harmonious Center as a scientific advisor. War-focused, aggressive. No, Vela countered thoughtfully. I don't think that's it. They're not becoming something else. They're revealing who they've always been. And that should comfort me. Vela's skin rippled with an emotion that didn't translate well, something between resignation and hope. They're preparing to protect not just themselves, but us as well. That's the part of their nature you're overlooking. Before Tirtal could respond, an alert sounded. The swarm had changed course. They were now heading directly toward New Haven, a human colony world on the Confederation's outer rim. The species that fought back. The colony on New Haven was humanity's first extrasolar settlement, established within months of joining the Confederation. Home to just under 50,000 pioneers, the planet featured Earth-like conditions with stunning azure oceans and perpetual spring in its temperate zones. Now it stood directly in the swarm's path. Admiral Chen watched from the bridge of the UES Defiance as her hastily assembled fleet took position around New Haven. 47 ships, a mixture of retrofitted civilian vessels, older military craft, and a few experimental designs incorporating Confederation technology, against thousands of swarm vessels. All evacuation transports are away, reported Commander Mikhail Petrov, his voice steady despite the tension evident in his posture. Civilian population is clear. Chen nodded. Good. Now we show our new friends something they've never seen before. Across the bridge, Dr. Reynolds looked up from the sensor station he'd been assigned to monitor. Admiral, Confederation observation vessels are holding position at the system's edge. Let them watch, Chen replied. It's about time they learned. The swarm appeared first as distant specks on the long-range sensors, then as a dark cloud spreading across the stars. Their ships, if they could be called that, resembled massive insects, their surfaces constantly shifting and reforming. There were thousands of them, perhaps tens of thousands. On board the Confederation observation vessel, Tirtal watched with a mixture of dread and sadness. They should have evacuated, he murmured. This sacrifice is unnecessary. Vela stood beside him, her skin a deep blue of concentration. Watch closely, she advised. I think we're about to learn something. The expected human strategy, forming a defensive line around their colony, never materialized. Instead, the human fleet broke into small tactical groups. Some accelerated directly toward the approaching swarm. Others took positions behind New Haven's moons or within its rings. "What are they doing?" asked a junior observer. "They're fighting like humans," Vela answered softly. The battle began without preamble. The lead human vessels fired first, not the energy weapons the Confederation had reluctantly shared, but physical projectiles that exploded in precise patterns among the foremost swarm ships. The explosions seemed to create electromagnetic pulses that disrupted the swarm's coordination. They identified the hive mind's communication frequency. Vela realized aloud. They're not trying to destroy them all. They're breaking their connection. The swarm's response was immediate and brutal. Dozens of vessels converged on the human ships that had fired. But as they did, more human vessels attacked from different vectors, drawing portions of the swarm away from the main group. "They're dividing them," Tirtal observed, his scientific curiosity momentarily overriding his horror at the violence, "making them easier to defeat in smaller numbers." On the Defiance, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. "Phase 1 successful," she announced. "The swarm is breaking formation. Initiate Phase 2. Throughout the system, hidden installations on New Haven's moons activated, generating gravitational disturbances that further disrupted the swarm's movements. Human ships executed complex maneuvers, suicidally reckless by Confederation standards, to lure swarm vessels into these disruption zones. The observation vessel's crew watched in stunned silence as human vessels deliberately allowed themselves to be damaged, playing wounded to draw swarm ships into traps. They saw human captains sacrifice their ships to protect others or to eliminate larger numbers of enemies. "This is how they've always fought," Vela explained to the shocked observers. "Their history is full of sacrifice, of the few dying to save the many. It's not something our species understand easily." The battle raged for hours. Human losses were severe. 13 ships destroyed, hundreds of crew members lost. But the swarm, for the first time in recorded history, was faltering. Their coordinated movements became erratic. Their overwhelming numerical advantage meant less as humans exploited their newfound weaknesses. Then came the final phase of the human strategy. The remaining fleet retreated toward New Haven's largest moon, drawing the pursuing swarm into a tight formation. "Energy spike detected on the moon's surface," reported a Tazray observer. Tirtal leaned forward. "What have they?" He never finished the question. The moon's surface erupted as massive devices activated, creating a localized gravity well of impossible strength. The swarm ships, unable to escape its pull, were drawn together into a dense mass. Then, from the far side of the system, 3 human vessels that had been held in reserve accelerated to maximum speed. They were on a direct collision course with the trapped swarm. "They wouldn't," gasped a junior observer. "They would," Vela corrected quietly. The 3 ships, their life support systems evacuated but engines at full capacity, struck the concentrated swarm mass simultaneously. The resulting explosion consumed nearly 60% of the remaining swarm vessels. The rest, their hive minds severely damaged, scattered in disarray. The observation vessel fell silent. No one spoke as they processed what they had just witnessed. A force that had terrorized the Confederation for 20,000 years had just been dealt a devastating blow by its newest, technologically inferior member. "Transmit everything we've recorded to Harmonious Center," Tirtal finally ordered, his voice unsteady. "The Council needs to see this. All of it." 3 months later, Admiral Chen stood before the full Galactic Confederation Council. Her uniform bore new medals, but her expression remained as composed as ever. "The remaining swarm vessels have retreated beyond Confederation space," she reported. "Our long-range scouts are tracking them to ensure they don't return unexpectedly." "And if they do?" asked the counselor. "Then we'll be ready," Chen answered simply. "Humanity has established defense outposts at strategic points along the former swarm path. We're developing early warning systems and improved weapons based on what we learned at New Haven. The council chamber remained uncomfortably silent. Finally, Xurtal spoke. Admiral Chen, the Confederation owes humanity a debt we cannot easily repay. You've done what we thought impossible. Chen acknowledged this with a slight nod. We did what was necessary. At great cost, Xurtal continued. We've studied your battle records. The courage of your people is humbling. Courage is only part of it, Chen replied. Humans have spent our history fighting, mostly against ourselves, sadly. But we've learned from every conflict. We understand war in ways you haven't needed to for millennia. A Velen counselor's skin shifted to a thoughtful purple. Perhaps that's why your species joined the Confederation when you did. Perhaps you were needed. Chen smiled slightly. I believe everything happens for a reason. But now we need to discuss the future. The swarm will adapt to our tactics. They'll return eventually, and we'll need to be ready. We? Xurtal asked. Yes, we, Chen confirmed. Humanity doesn't intend to become the Confederation's military arm, while the rest of you remain unchanged. We'll share what we know about defense, about fighting when necessary, but you need to remember how. The council chamber filled with uneasy murmuring. The principles of the Confederation have maintained peace for 20,000 years, objected an elder counselor. Peace among yourselves, Chen countered. But the galaxy isn't peaceful. The swarm proves that. There are things worth fighting for, people worth protecting, even at great cost. Vila, now seated among the scientific advisors, spoke up. Admiral Chen is right. We've confused peace with passivity. We stopped defending ourselves long ago because it was easier to run, to believe that violence in any form was wrong. Xurtal considered this. What are you proposing, Admiral? A joint defense initiative. Chen answered promptly. Human tactical knowledge combined with Confederation technology. Not to conquer, not to control, but to protect. To ensure that no more worlds are lost to the swarm or anything like them. The debate lasted for days. The Confederation's deeply ingrained aversion to military action couldn't be overcome quickly. But the evidence was undeniable. Humanity had succeeded where 20,000 years of evacuation and avoidance had failed. In the end, a compromise was reached. A defensive alliance would be formed, led jointly by humans and volunteer representatives from other species. It would focus on protection, not aggression. On saving lives, not taking them unnecessarily. As the council session concluded, Xurtal approached Admiral Chen privately. I confess I didn't understand your species when we first met, he admitted. I saw your military history as a flaw, evidence that you weren't ready to join a peaceful galactic community. Chen smiled. And now? Now I wonder if the Confederation has been incomplete all these millennia. We developed art, science, philosophy, but we forgot how to protect ourselves. We needed you, though we didn't know it. And we needed you, Chen replied. Humanity might have destroyed itself without the perspective the Confederation offered. Perhaps that's the beauty of this alliance. We balance each other. Xurtal's membranes rippled in what Chen now recognized as thoughtful agreement. There's an old saying among my people, different roots, same sky. I think I finally understand what it means. Together, they looked out at the stars visible through the council chamber's vast windows. The same stars that now shone a little brighter, a little safer, because humanity had remembered how to fight when peace alone wasn't enough.